Dating someone from another country is exciting. It's an adventure, and the journey feels like no other. However, the greater the adventure, the greater the risks. There are some things we definitely neglected to consider up front, which cause big hurdles along the way. We're going to share some key aspects of an international relationship for you to consider so you can better prepare to have a happy, healthy relationship.
The first thing to consider is cultural difference. It may sound obvious, but you can never think through this enough because the cultural shock coming from two completely different cultures will keep happening between you and your partner throughout your relationship. During our 3-year relationship, we thought we knew each other so well, only to discover there were still so many other things to find out about each other, especially after we moved in together. Just to list some of the stuff that we had big differences and had conflicts about, there was work-life balance, sense of money, the relationship with the family, and parenting style, and even how to deal with conflicts itself was very different. Values, customs, and traditions were all so different in different categories for us. We kept arguing about the same thing over and over, and we finally realized the problem wasn't either of us, it was the cultural difference, and that's what was causing the expectations and misunderstandings. Once we identified that, we learned to recognize the difference and were able to talk about the middle ground and build a new standard in our multicultural family. But instead of waiting for arguments to happen like we did, you can have these discussions early in the relationship. So ask your partner questions like, what do you value in life? What's your thought of saving money? What kind of family do you want to have? And if you can think of any other questions to ask for your partner, throw them down in comments and let us know. But still, be prepared for clashes and conflicts because they will definitely happen no matter what. But the difference is when you do have these conflicts and differences in opinion, you will be expecting it to happen. So knowing this in the first place will help you to talk about it constructively. Remember, a lot of these are cultural, not personal. So take time to learn about their cultural background through these questions and discussions. If you can mindfully talk about each other's differences, it'll be a beautiful and much more peaceful journey building your own traditions together.
The second thing to consider would be financial matters. Going to visit your partner while in a long-distance relationship, of course, costs a lot of money. But even after the long-distance relationship ends, you would even sometimes go and visit your partner's family. That means these plane tickets will be a large reoccurring expense in this lifestyle that you're going to have. We initially went to buying the cheapest tickets we could find, to now buying 4 tickets for a very specific time and a smooth transition for our kids. So the ticket price drastically raised, and now we have to buy 4 of them. This is something we did not foresee in our future, as much as we probably should have while dating, because we were just focused on surviving the long-distance relationship. In addition to that, if you're going to apply for the visa to be together, that's also an expense you're going to have to consider. Whether it's the upfront cost of the visa or the reoccurring expense of the renewals. This will continue to affect your financial situation throughout the years. And again, it took us a few years to realize this is something we're going to have to discuss as our relationship keeps going. While navigating these discussions and these financial situations, we figured out that discussing these openly and honestly was key to a stable financial relationship. You can talk about these with your partner beforehand. Try to add it into your long-term relationship plan. Consider the financial implications of potential relocation, visits, and future family planning so you can be prepared for all these expenses.
Last but not least is cultural and social integration. This part happens when the long distance ends and one of you moves to the partner's country. Adapting to a new environment is challenging for anyone, and be prepared for the culture shock and the frustration that occurs to both of you. The social integration process was a lot more complicated than I imagined before I moved. I had lived overseas for over 3 years and I visited Nebraska 5 times before I actually moved. But having a job, starting a family, being part of the society was completely different from those vacation visits. Finding balance, being authentically yourself, and trying to blend into a new society with different culture is very overwhelming. Both your relationship and social status will have big transition, but you're still building the new connections around you, so sometimes it could feel very lonely navigating through that. Of course, things got easier for me as time passed, but those struggles and loneliness at the beginning I experienced is something I don't want to wish on anyone. After the first year of moving to Nebraska, I stumbled upon some friendships and community by luck, but I later found out that they have always been on social media. So I could have reached out prior to the move and have things set up for me to go meet them right when I moved. So for your new community, you could have some plans laid out, especially if you look up online. Along with that, you can also brainstorm your lifestyle in new environment. Try to learn local customs and expectations so that you are aware of them and then see how they fit in with your values. For example, going to a restaurant solo was something I was used to do and enjoyed back in Tokyo. But it was definitely not something common to do in Nebraska. So throughout the first year or two, I explored town to bakeries and cafes that are more socially acceptable to go by yourself. But had I thought through this before the move, I could have made a list to check out and would have made it a lot more simple and easy for me to find a place where I felt like I belonged to within the community. If you had ideas like this, you can ask help from your partner, especially them being the local. As I said earlier, both of you will be affected one way or another by the culture shock. Having a rough idea of how to navigate through a new lifestyle together will be a big lifesaver, especially when a big transition you go through as a couple.
So these are 3 big aspects to consider when going into an international relationship. If you have anything else that you think is important, let us know down in the comments. Don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you won't miss out on any of our future content.